Dan to be Severn here, having to hold down the fort. Don is having a few issues there. He's getting up there in ages, and um, just he's got to go see a man about a horse. I'll just put it like that. So I'll be holding down the fort here right now, and I've got a couple questions. And Tony has stepped up to the plate to read a couple questions that are specifically aimed at yours truly. So, Tony, go ahead. Hit me with the first one.
All right, Dan, here we go. First one we got from Robert is about a week ago. Says, is your book still on schedule for late 2021, Dan?
I do have, Robert, I do have one book out already, and I am working on a second book. I don't think it will be ready. Well, at the end of 2021, it's possibilities. I do have an awful lot on my plate. I hope it will be, but at the same token, I can't say positively. I got to get a couple more irons out of the fire in order to be a little bit more proficient.
Is this going to be a fantasy, Dan?
No. The very first book was entitled "The Realest Man in the Room," Life and Times of Dan B. Severn, but it was
great book. You got to check it out.
Kind of a superficial, superficial type of book. The second one, I want to be a little bit more in your face, grab you by the scruff of the neck, and rub your face straight into the cow pie of reality of who I am and what I've accomplished. And then there'll be another book after that, because I want people, not that I'm looking for the recognition. What I'm looking for is I want to try to motivate people. I want to try to help people. But sometimes some people just need a good old fashioned swift kick in the hind end in order to say, get off your lazy ass and just start trying. A lot of people think that they put out these negative vibes. They literally they defeat themselves before they ever even try. And I want them to simply get out there. What you got to lose? Go out and try.
Yep, nothing wrong. You're never going to succeed if you don't try. All right, and we're going to move right along here. All right, here we go. Another question from Juan. This one says, we've seen Don's Magnum PI, but what was Dan's favorite Halloween costume? Because in this Q&A, you look quite similar to Tom Selleck's character with that T-shirt, if it was red. I thought he was disguised as Magnum.
Well, hold that thought for just 1 second there, Tony. I'll be right back. And I'm not taking a man break. I'm coming right back just to show you one thing real quick.
Well, this is going to be good. Let's hear the drum roll. What is he going to do, folks? We got to get the Jeopardy music going.
Okay. Are you there? Are you there, Tony?
Yep. Let's go.
So.
Oh, see, so you could pull off some Magnum PI yourself.
So I think that answers the question. I do have a sort of an assortment of Hawaiian shirts. I kind of thought, well, if I'm going to own an island, I should be at least starting to wear, Hawaiian style type of shirts, a lot more colorful types of shorts. I'm starting to wear, goofy style hats.
There you go.
Like this.
Got Gilligan.
Wearing, sunglasses to boot, so all kinds of opportunities for sunglass sponsorships, hat type glasses, or hat sponsorships. So just kind of putting some feelers out there,
Yep, let us know. We're looking for those sponsors. OPP LLC, iCloud.com. Let us know. All right, here we go. Let's see here. Next question. This is just from the good old boy. It says, tell us about your first fight in the UFC. How was it? Did you have any fear?
My very first fight was in UFC number 4. I've told the story a number of times over the years. I did not even know that the UFC existed until after UFC number 2 took place. It was brought to my attention. I tried to get into number 3, but it was too late in the process. They had already filled the tournament. I was in UFC number 4. This was the 8-man tournament concept back in that days. So you had 8 men. You had to fight 3 times in the same 2-hour pay-per-view that still runs to this day. I just had the videos really to look at. I only trained for 5 days, an hour and a half a day over at Al Snow's Body Slammers Gym in Lima, Ohio at that time. A professional wrestling ring was the closest thing that could come to a cage. So I at least was working out or competing in a confined type of area. So I would be jamming, my guys up against the ropes, trying to take them down against the ropes. So not exactly a cage wall, but it was the closest I could come at the time. But, when you think about only training for 5 days, an hour and a half a day, between the 3 gentlemen, I mean, Al Snow was one of them and 2 other professional proteges. They had one old pair of boxing gloves between them. They would simply just keep swapping out the boxing gloves. They tried to punch, kick, knee, and do whatever submissions they could do. So, I mean, literally, if you were to have, if someone would have videotaped those practice sessions, they would have probably could have classified it as comedy sketches because it was so comical. They got to the point that they didn't want to even go out there against me. They started throwing the boxing gloves at each other, like, you go after him. No, it's your turn. He's like, he just got done, kicking my ass and stuff like this. So I never threw a single punch. I never learned a single punch. I mean, they were wearing the gloves. I was going bare knuckled, and all I did was simply just parry strikes, get the clinches, and I just used amateur wrestling technique. So I would take them down, slap on, cross faces and power halves and 3/4 Nelsons and things of that nature. And then just, the principles of amateur wrestling are body position, body control. Ultimately, you want to pin a man on their back. Obviously, you don't want to be turned over onto your back, so you have to use leverage. Leverage is just another way of simply saying you must induce pain into your opponent so that you can roll him over onto his back and then, against his will, pin him to the mat. So I'll simply say that I just simply took amateur wrestling moves and turned them illegal, and that was my training camp. So I never learned. I always tell people I did not have any punching background, no kicking background. Even when I showed up, I'm like, am I going to be allowed to wear amateur wrestling shoes? Well, they had never been asked that question before. And they're like going, well, if you do, you will not be allowed to kick or stomp. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't kick or stomp now. What did I give up? Nothing. So I wore shoes for my first several of my Ultimate Fighting Championship tournaments that I was in. And when the industry finally turned from NHB, no holds barred, to mixed martial arts, that's when, or I should say, when it was still no holds barred, and the rules came about that I had to finally lose the shoes. Well, then I simply had to lose the shoes at that point in time. So long answer, but shoes were the one aspect, but I don't even think that was the original question. What was the original question?
The original question was just wanted to know about your first fight and if you were scared at all, pretty much, if you had any fear.
Yeah. Well, okay. Go back to that. I'm there. My international freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling background served me very well for climbing into a cage. I've had several careers in my life, being an amateur wrestler, folk style wrestler, amateur wrestler, freestyle wrestler, amateur wrestler, Greco-Roman wrestler, but I've also done judo. I've done submission grappling events. I've done tough man contests. Um, it wasn't until 1992 that the U.S. Olympic Committee came out with new ruling that allowed athletes to be professional and amateurs simultaneously. Thus, you had the dream team in basketball. Well, that's why I jumped into professional wrestling and doing mixed martial arts all at the same time. I know I'm kind of going off into a different tangent, but
No, you're
it's
good.
my way of saying that through all of the various careers I've had, the safest thing I ever did was cage fight. Now that's almost strange to say that. How can amateur wrestling be more vicious? Well, the reality is I've had way more matches in my amateur wrestling career than I have had in my cage fighting career. And the cage fighting career is already impressive enough because you got to look at the reality. There's only 4 men in the world that have over 100 cage fights. I'm one of those 4. There's only 3 in the world that have over 100 victories. I'm still in that category. So it's just very unique in that aspect. But when it comes to my amateur wrestling matches, freestyle wrestling matches, Greco-Roman wrestling matches, judo, sambo, other stuff, how many do I have there? I don't know, 3,500, 4,500, 5,500. I honestly, I would have to say easily between, say, 3,000 plus, but I might be off by 3,000. So I couldn't even begin to tell you that one. So
what you're getting at is the beast doesn't fear anything.
I didn't. I've always been able to keep myself calm in matches, just breathing, but I was great at using the psychological aspects, intimidating type of aspects of sports, because sport is very visual. Conditioning a body is one thing, but you got to realize people see things. So when I made the comment earlier with Don Frye, the fact that I've been coloring my hair since 27 years of age. Well, the reality is my hair is snow white. My eyebrows are snow white. My mustache is snow white. Now, if I had been started my cage fight and the opponent is looking over at me and he sees this snow white guy, is he going to be very intimidated of me? I don't think so.
No,
because it's the visual. It will give some more confidence into him. So that's literally, Don has kidded me before. One of the very first times he was actually one of my fights and stuff like that. He was like he thought that I was out there to try to find something really that was going to give me some type of edge for my upcoming match. And then we saw that I picked up 2 boxes of hair coloring. He just started laughing.
Yeah, I remember him telling me.
But I simply knew that the psychological aspect of keeping the mustache looking dark and dastardly, keeping hair looking dark and youthful. I mean, it just said, those are all part of that visual that when people see you, and that just having physical size is one thing, but when you can look it and you don't look your age, it's a whole different factor. A long drawn out answer, I know there, Tony, but who you talk to, the guy that can flap his yap now. Before I couldn't. I always tell people that I never wanted to talk before. I actually had to go to in my junior year of high school, I had to take a speech class because I was being thrusted more and more in front of the microphone. And then by my freshman year at Arizona State, I took yet another speech class because of once again being thrust in front of that microphone. I don't know if you can hear the background, but it is raining here now in Howell, Michigan, and I have a metal roof, and it's making some pretty good noise.
Let's see. You can barely hear it on my end. I don't know if the fans will be able to hear it. But all right, here we go. We're going to move on to another question. This one is from Steve S. He says, great show. This has quickly become one of my favorite channels. I have a question for Dan Severn that I've always wondered about. Dan, He has said before that if he had won a gold medal in the 1984 Olympics, he would have retired from competition with the goals fulfilled. But Dan has always seemed to have an inner drive and the love for competition. Dan carried on wrestling and professional wrestling, and then over 100 MMA fights. So Dan clearly had a strong inner drive to compete. Does Dan really believe that if he had won the Olympic gold and he would have rode off into the sunset and never competed again?
You're going to be surprised by this answer, Tony. It's a one word response. Yes.
Wow. I am surprised. I find that hard to believe.
But to elaborate now, if you want me to elaborate on this,
5,000 words or less.
Because of what happened in 1984 is what drove me on. I would have retired. That was my goal. As I stated earlier, and a number of our podcasts, there are two types of people in this world. There are those that let life happen to them, and there's others that simply make life happen. I have lived out of a planner. Here's my 2021 planner. I have lived out of a planner since my junior year in high school. Just for all the matches I was doing, all the things I was doing for competitions. I just wish I would have kept those. I never kept any of those at that time. I just simply, once I was done, throw it out and move on to the next one, because I was always next year's goals. You met these, raise the bar. But yeah, my goal was simply just to win the 1984 Olympic gold medal, and I was going to retire from the sport of amateur wrestling. Now, I would have retired as a competitor. I would have still stayed in coaching, whether I would have coached at a junior college, a full-blown university, or at a high school level. I would have still been involved in the sport because I just love it so much.
Wow, well, that would have been a shame never to see the beast step into the octagon.
Well, but again, that's where I talk about adversity in people's life. Things happen. We do hit into dead ends, U-turns, wrong ways. It's how do you adapt to those things? A lot of people just simply lay down and they'll give up. We live in a world more and more where people give up. I had a fantastic weekend this past weekend, out just south of Chicago. I was actually at a sports bar. It was called Chillax, as in like a cold axe, an actual axe, Chillax.
So and now you were at an axe
throwing bar. And it was the first place
bar.
where, I mean, literally, you could throw it. You could actually throw small axe handles type things, or the big long double axe type handles. That was pretty cool. So I was there. I did an appearance there. But do you think I could just be there without actually doing it?
No, of course not. Of course,
I grew up on a farm. I took a couple lessons from the guys and gals that actually were running the place, and then there I was throwing single type axes, and then I was throwing the big double axe.
So did you get your bullseye?
Yes, I hit a couple bullseyes.